I'm Jeff.
I'm Donna.
And this is
The Meador Effect.
Out in Arizona where Saguaro Grow live Jeff and Donna Meador and their TV show. Talking about love and the things they do. Bringing peace and joy to people like you. It's the Meador Effect. It's the Meador Effect. It's their sincere desire to have an effect. As a matter of fact, it's the Meador Effect. 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 Great to have you guys with us today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic show lined up for you, as always. What are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about who do you want to be?
Ooh.
I like that because people think they are who they are. Like, if you don't like it, lump it type thing. But I have understood as my years of wisdom that we can actually change. Isn't that a nice concept?
Yes. Well, one of the other episodes that we had, we were talking about changing your story, and this goes right along with it. You can decide who you want to be.
Yeah.
You can make up your mind who you want to be, and it is very exciting when you grasp that concept and begin to implement that in your life.
I think what happens is people actually get to a place of midlife crisis, and then they start to reevaluate who they are and who they want to be. But I'm going to take it a step further and say, look, okay, from maybe kindergarten to age 30, you're on this road of trying to figure a lot of things out.
Yeah.
Life hits you in the face as you get older. You're trying to pivot and understand things. But you reach a point of understanding, or you can reach a point of understanding that you don't have to be the person you are, especially if you don't like that person.
Yeah. And what's also fascinating to me, some people know from a very early age what they want. I'm thinking about the story of one of our Olympic gold medalists. Can't think of her name off the top of my head, but her mom was being interviewed, and she said that when she was 10 years old, she would get up out of bed only to find that her little daughter is out in the backyard working on her balance beam. And then she would go out and say, you have to get ready for school. And she would say, do I have to go to school? I want to work on the balance beam.
Isn't that interesting? That's
it is.
true.
She knew what she wanted to be. And there's tons of stories like that.
I've always been so involved in peeling the layer of the onion. And I remember it really came about when I was about 26 years old. No, I was probably more like 21. I've always been pretty in-depth when it came to understanding personal development, a little bit more mature for my age as I went through high school. But at around 21, 22, I started to take a look at myself because I couldn't stand the fact that I felt like I painted myself into corners. I felt like I didn't know how to communicate properly. And that frustrated me because I couldn't express myself. I just thought communication was I tell you what I want and you give it to me. That was a rude awakening when I found out that was not the case. Yeah.
Well, the three pillars that we talk about in our show, and if you've been watching us for very long, you know that we talk about the love languages, we talk about personal development, and one that she just mentioned, the art of communication. I've said this before. If you go up and ask someone, are there bad drivers on the road? Oh my gosh, everyone's horrible. What about you? Well, I'm a good driver.
Right.
And that's what people think about themselves when it comes to communication. They think, well, man, so many people, they just don't know how to communicate, but I'm a great one.
Yeah.
And the fact is, are you?
Yeah.
Well, who do you want to be? Do you really want to be a great communicator? Because you can be, but that takes work. And there really is an art to being a great communicator.
Right. And usually adversity will bring you to a place of making a shift. And then you can reevaluate who you are. Now, I've been through life, all right? So there's things that have happened in my life. For the most part, I'm very happy with the decision I made. I can come up with a couple of things that if I could have did over, I would do different.
Sure.
But that's life, right? We're making our best decision based on what we know.
At the time that we're making it.
At the time that we're making it.
Yeah.
And I've had a few times through my life where I've actually changed who I was based on understanding, based on what I learned about myself, when I learned how to communicate, one of the key shifts in my world was reading the book, The Five Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman, because I came to understand actually my love relationship with my father, believe it
Oh,
or not.
yeah,
Yeah, I came to
yeah.
understand that he loved me because at that time, acts of service was a zero for me. So I didn't relate to it. Gifts was higher up on the rank. So my father was, driving me places, took me to the airport. He did things
Yeah,
for me. I didn't make that connection until I was a little older.
yeah.
So good
But
stuff.
well, it is good stuff. And again, we started the show with the topic. I'm going to ask you, who do you want to be? I was, I'm guessing I was probably 35 when this happened. I had a very good friend of mine, my best friend at the time. Name was Dave, and he came up and he said, "Imagine it's your 80th birthday, and they're going to have this great big party for you, and everybody's going to go up onto the platform and have something to say about you. What would you want them to say?" And I thought about it for a little bit. And I thought, he was a great dad. He was a great friend. He was always loyal. He was very giving. He was always compassionate. I gave this big long list, and Dave's response, "Dude, you're not any of those things.
Wow.
Nobody's going to say that about you with the life that you're living right now and where you're at and what you're doing.
Wow.
Nobody is ever going to say those things about you. That's
Wow.
not who you are."
Boy, that must have been a hard pill to swallow when you heard that, huh?
Well, I blew up at him.
Yeah.
I got mad. Mr. Compassionate, Mr. Understanding, proving Dave's point.
Yeah, right.
But it hurt. It angered me, but it drilled me to the core.
Right.
And for the next week, maybe two, he and I worked. I mean, his office was next to mine. I didn't say hardly 2 words to him, but it was the truth that he told me that I really began to stop and think about this. If I am at my 80th birthday party, if I don't start now being somebody that's caring and loving and giving and a good father, they're never going to say that about me when I'm 80. If I'm not doing that when I'm 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, they're not going to turn around and say that about me when I'm 80.
Isn't that something?
So I had to ask myself, and I didn't even know this question, but I had to ask myself, who do I want to be? Now, I was pondering that. But again, as I began to gain in personal development,
So good.
It is. It is.
So good.
So
Yeah. No, I'm just loving the story. I'm like, wow, that was, what a gift he gave you to ask you that question. And you probably thought about it for literally 2 weeks straight,
I thought about it ever since.
Yeah.
And I'll go beyond even that. What a great friend.
Yeah.
Because he knew who I was. He knew that I was an angry person. He knew that I was going to chop his head off and put it on a silver platter if I could right there in front of him. And he knew what was going to happen when because you could tell when he came in, he asked me that. He already knew what was going on, what he wanted to happen. But to this day, I've often thought, every time I think of Dave, I think of that incident and I think to myself, wow, what a great friend.
Isn't that great?
What a rarity to have somebody, especially at that age in my life, who would be willing to share that with me and understand what the response is going to be.
And possibly lose friendship.
Yeah.
There's that, right? So wow, that took a lot of courage. Dave, thank you if you ever listen to this. Thank you so much for that. Helping my husband be the man, he is today. I love being able to understand. I don't think I realized that I could actually change myself when I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
And one time I don't know when I was losing all track of time here, but let's say in the early 90s, I ended up with chronic fatigue. I was sick. I was sleeping a lot. I think one night I slept 15 hours, woke up exhausted. This is real, okay? Well, at least that's my story, right? That was real. And so, but what amazed me one time was somebody said to me, just because you're sick doesn't mean you can't be happy.
Wow.
And I was like,
wow.
What? Oh my gosh, like this was a whole nother light bulb moment.
Salam.
Yeah. I was like, you mean I could not feel good and still be happy?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Donna would go on eventually to start a broadcast on Facebook called Daily Dose Adana, just the letter A. And her main theme was always set your dial to joy.
Right.
And most of this broadcast was done, or a lot of it was done after her late husband, Pietro, had gotten sick, and then after he passed away.
Right.
And so it's easy. It's easy to be full of joy when everything's going your way and life's great. And hey, how's it going? It's a
Yeah.
completely different matter
Yeah.
when the bottom is literally dropped out from underneath you and your life has taken a turn you never expected, but there's still a decision to be made, and you still have to ask yourself, who do I want to be? And Donna is going through this horrible grieving process when somebody who was a widow, had been a widow, I think a year more than she had been, or a couple of years, said, oh, you think the first year's bad? Wait till the second. It's much worse. And at that moment,
I said no. So there is no way. Not only will I not feel worse,
Yes.
I will not allow it.
Yes.
Feeling worse was not an option. But I want to get back a little bit. I want to back up a second because you're 100% right. I was in the midst of grieving, and what prompted me to do this podcast, if you will, was, well, I had gathered a lot of followers on the journey of doing this podcast while my late husband was sick and then passed away. And so I had these people wanting to hear more.
Yeah.
And I when I came back, I realized I had a choice. What is my message going to be? And I wanted them to see if I could turn my dial to joy in the midst of adversity, in the midst of this heartache, in the midst of this pain, then maybe I could inspire somebody else too also. And it was therapeutic for me, and it was extremely beneficial. I got so much feedback from people saying that to this day, I get messages from people on Facebook. They'll send me a picture of a joy snow boot or the word joy or something. I'll get something in the mail that says joy. It's so sweet.
People are always giving her gifts that say joy.
We have choices, and I wanted to be a person that was going to rise above my own adversity.
Yes.
I didn't want to feel the pain. I didn't want to be on the ground squirming around like a dead, dying roach. Like I wanted to rise above. And so I looked for joy where it was, not where it wasn't. Looked for love where it was, not where it wasn't. And it became a thing. And it is a thing because I chose that was the person I wanted to be. Right? So how cool is that, you guys? Like, how cool do you get to realize that if you're dealing with something, it's really up to you how you want to show up.
Yeah, well, who do you want to be? And when you were talking, what popped into my mind was, I know there are a number of couples out there that you are in a relationship. Some of you have been married for 10, 15, 20 years, and it's not what you want. Some of you are considering filing for divorce because it's not what you want. My question for you is, who do you want to be?
Right.
It's up to you. You can literally change your life. You can change your marriage. You can change your long-term relationship if you change yourself.
Now,
who do I want to be?
Yeah, you know what? Now you brought that up. Now I have to go into a little bit of dating tip right here, you guys. Dating tip. Because I get people all the time. I say, Donna, how did you find love 2 times in a row? Like, wow. Like most people don't find it once. How do you find it twice? And so I'm going to put on my dating coaching hat right now. It says, the person you're looking for, you want to become. You want to become the person you want to look for, because otherwise you're going to have this sense of, how do you deserve that person? Right? It's really interesting when you start thinking about it. I've had it on both sides where men want certain women, women want certain men, but they're not willing to be that person or be that party or be that giving, be that understanding. Breathe that brilliant, whatever it is for them, it's really interesting.
Well, what popped into my mind, when I was a youth pastor, I would constantly have young men come in and want counseling, and there was a girl that they were in love with, and they would sit down. I'll never forget, this one young man came in, and he was after probably one of the most beautiful young girls I had ever seen, and he walked in and he sat down, and he's like, Pastor Jeff, I want her. And I looked at him and I said, no, no, there's no way. She's so out of your league. There's absolutely no way that you'll ever be able to get her. You're just not. I don't even know why you're wasting my time on this.
Oh, wow.
And he started getting choked up. I said, well, unless, let me ask you this. I said, what kind of man do you think God would want to give a woman like her, a girl like her? She's a very godly young woman. She had her head on straight. She was smart. She was intelligent. She's going to college. getting ready to go to college, all these things. And I said, you have to ask yourself, what kind of man, what caliber of man would her Heavenly Father want to have as her husband? Because if you don't match up to that, I can tell you right now, never going to happen. But if you will look at the kind of man you would need to be, have to be, in order for God to be happy to give her to you. And I'll say this right now, they're married, and I think they have 4 children. That was a long time ago. But again, if there is, like Donna said, if there's somebody, well, let me go back to what I was talking about.
Okay.
You're in a long-term relationship. You've been married for 20 years. The marriage has just gotten stale. You're just existing together. Is that what you really want? Well, I don't think anybody wants that. So who do you want to be? Do you want to be, I'm going to speak to the men now, do you want to be the husband that she is thrilled to come home to? Do you want to be the husband that she dreams about and wants to, before Donna and I were together, her late husband did all the cooking. Her friends know Donna doesn't cook. She cooks for me all the time, and they're like, who are you? and one of those things, sometimes we just have to look into the mirror. And you know what, that reminds me, I wrote a song.
Okay. Oh.
I'm working on it.
I love when he writes songs.
So, and it's called Living the Life. Well, I don't even know what I'm going to call it, but let's go ahead and sing it, okay?
Yay!
Looking in the mirror and asking myself, who do I really want to be? Take the time to decide for myself, living the life that I already see, living the life that I already see, living the life that's just for you and me.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. You know what? We don't even have a name for it yet.
No.
That is so cool. I can't wait. We're going to have to start writing a songbook of all these songs you're coming up with. I love it. Ladies, come on. That's not like amazing. Like acts of service was 0 for me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And today it's my number 2 love language. And wow. Thank you, sweetheart.
You're welcome.
I love it. Woo.
The first line in that song, when I was thinking about it, is looking in the mirror and asking myself, who do I really want to be?
Yeah.
And then the next line, taking the time to decide for myself, living the life that I already see. Guys, you have to see what you want before you can get it, before you can become it.
Yes.
So this is what, as we're wrapping up the show here, I want to encourage you. You have to take the time to go into a quiet place. You have to be honest with yourself. And I mean brutally honest. Don't give yourself any slack. If you give yourself slack, it's you're just holding yourself back. Be brutally honest with where you're at. But then, where do you want to be? You only need to know 2 things. 1, where are you at? 2, where do you want to go? If I'm here in Arizona and I want to go to New York City, that's all I need to know in order to plan out how to get there. And if I'm going to get in my car, if I'm going to take a plane, well, especially if I'm going to take a plane, I better know what city where I'm going.
Where you're going.
But you have to see it. So I encourage you, think about who do you want to be? Be brutally honest with who you are now. Who do you want to be? And begin to picture that in your mind, and then start to do the little things that will help you get there. Can I just give them one quick tip?
Okay, because I have something really
Go.
Go. This is so good because, and because you wrote this song, Looking in the Mirror. So a few weeks after Pietro passed away, I'm looking in the mirror as I'm getting my hair done.
Yeah.
This is key. This is the beginning of a path unfolding in front of me. I'm looking in the mirror as she's doing my hair, and I don't like what I see. And because what I see looks the same, but what I feel is very different. And this is where the red came from. So I had her put the red in my hair so that I could look in the mirror and see a different person, because I knew from that moment forward I was a changed woman.
Yes.
And my mother called up and said, you know, honey, your path is going to unfold in front of you. You just walk it. And that's what I have been doing ever since.
Yes. And she doesn't allow it just to happen.
No.
She knows where she wants to go. She knows what she wants to become. the thing I was just going to share, start where you're at. Start where you're at. Guys, if you want to be the dream husband, then think of one thing a week that you can start to do. Now, a little tip I'll give you. Did this morning. It's pretty warm here in Arizona, but it was cold last night. And so before we got into bed, I jumped into her side of the bed and I warmed it up for her.
That was so cool. I love getting into a warm bed.
And it might be a little thing, but it's just letting her know that, well, you come first, and I don't want you getting into a cold bed unless that's, she likes it. Then don't. But
Awesome.
Again, start where you're at. Start to do little things.
Thank you,
and I
baby.
promise you, your life will never be the same.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Guys, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We always love it when you join us here. We hope that something we have shared has touched your heart. And remember, it's our sincere desire that the Meador Effect have an effect on you.
Meador Effect.